Greetings to our viewers at home. Welcome back to our book reading segment known as Ufundo Lwencwadi. Today we are continuing with our book titled Memoirs of a 28-year-old Damsaka Ukubambatha by Zizipho Penolope Languza-Maku. Today we are going to be reading chapter 6 titled Driver's License and Driving. Years later, I was ready to drive and test for my driver's license. A small, simple thing for other people, but a big deal for me. I felt like gasping for air every time I got inside a vehicle to drive. I had to open the window as soon as I got inside the car. I just could not breathe. I was afraid of being in an accident. I was afraid of other cars. I was afraid of other things that I did not know. I was just afraid. So, for me, driving was not just about getting to where I needed to get. It was about being extra careful along the way to not make any mistakes at all. I knew from experience that the more I thought about not making a mistake, the more likely I was to make a mistake. I could, however, never stop my mind from thinking such thoughts. There were many times when I had to get in the car and take deep breaths before starting the engine because I was about to drive. Nonetheless, I told myself that I will drive, even if it meant that I would spend my entire life taking deep breaths before starting the car. I was not going to sit back and become a victim of anxiety. If I had to drive the car while shaking, then so be it, but I would fight until I won the battle. I went and booked to test for my driver's license. I could not sleep the night before. This contradicts the right way of things according to me, which is that if you are going to test for a driver's license, you need to get enough sleep the night before. If for whatever reason you are not sleeping, let it not be because you were anxious, tossing and turning, and a wave of unpleasant emotions entertaining you all night. This is exactly how I felt the night before I went to do the test. For most of the night, I tossed and turned and constantly gasped for air. I closed my eyes tight in hopes of being swept away by sleep, but I felt like I had been running while I was lying in bed. My chest was tight. There certainly was not enough oxygen in the room. I got up in the middle of the night to open the windows because I needed some air. Then I went back to bed and tried to sleep again, but I could not. I felt like I was not getting any oxygen even though the window was open and right next to the bed. I got up to stand by the window and put my face through the metal bars so that I could get some air. I held onto the metal bars with my nose peeping through them. It helped a little. The bedroom, which has always been large, felt like a small tin and I felt trapped in it. I did not want to, but I was not going to spend the whole night by the window. So, I tried to sleep again because I knew that it was essential that I get enough sleep. But I could not sleep. I remembered that in the past, whenever I felt that way, I could use my towel and it would calm me down and put me to sleep. I reached for the suitcase above the closet where I kept the towel that I had used when I was in matric. I took it out and started to bambata. I could feel calmness approaching and I waited in anticipation for it to overwhelm my body the more I bambated. After a few minutes, my heart started beating slower. It started beating normally, but it felt like it was beating slowly because I was drowsy. I felt so calm. The calmness was accompanied by sound sleep. I woke up the next morning and looked around the room while I was having an internal conversation with myself. I'm awake. I must get up. What day is it today? Do I have to get up? What is happening today? I'm testing for my driver's license. My heart began to race again from 0 to 100 in a second. I gasped for air. Oh no! I felt excited and nervous at the same time. I was determined to do this. I was doing this, one way or another. I just need some air. I needed to get calm once more. I looked next to me and there the towel lay from the previous night. I reached for it, I closed my eyes, and I bambataned. I lay there for a good 5 minutes, and after that, I felt calm and ready. I got up to start the day. I went to the test, and surprisingly, I was just calm. I found myself in the car with the traffic officer. I was so calm. I felt like shouting, "Yeah, mother!" to people by the road. I felt like I was not afraid of anyone, and I could disrespect people because I was driving and I was calm. I passed my driver's license that day. A few months later, I got a new job, and during the induction week, I was placed in a group with some of my colleagues, and we were assigned some tasks to do. One of the questions on the task we were given was something along the lines of a recent difficult situation you were in that you had to overcome, and each of us had to answer. We were about 3 in the group, and I was first. I thought about the most recent difficult situation I was in, and I said, well, for me it was when I had to test for my driver's license recently. All they said was, no man, testing for a driver's license is not that hard. I just stood there, speechless, because that moment was a reminder that my problems were really different. The itty-bitty issues that people face are a big deal to me. I chose not to try and explain because it is hard to explain why a small thing is not small to you, especially when you know it is small and should be small. It is as easy as breathing to others. So what is wrong with me? After I got my driver's license and a car, I spent a good 3 years experiencing anxiety every time I had to drive. I had to take the same route to places such as the grocery store because driving alone was a mission, and driving to unknown destinations or through unknown routes came with an extra pinch of anxiety. I would take deep breaths before I started the car. and take deep breaths at the stop signs and traffic lights. Sometimes I would have to park the car and just breathe. I would do grocery shopping and try to hide my hands from the cashier because it would be hard to even keep the bank card in my hand. I would still be trembling from the fact that I drove there and now I needed to drive home. Why would I be nervous about driving there when it was in the past? Beats me. Nonetheless, I never backed down to this day. I started using my towel every time before driving anywhere, and it would relax me. I would just not feel scared anymore. I would not feel anything. I would just feel indifferent. I used my towel until I got used to driving. Now I do not get nervous anymore about driving. I won that fight. I recently witnessed a car accident that left me shaken. It did not look fatal. It would probably be a matter of minor injuries and some level of insurance drama. However, I remember that could be me. That could be anyone. And while for other people it really would not be a big deal, that 2 cars kissed each other in a violent manner, for me, it is as bad as it can get. It would not even matter if I were not in the wrong. It would still make me extremely nervous to drive again, just as it was in the very beginning when I started driving. After witnessing the accident, I drove a bit far to find a safe place to park so I could bambata. This occurred when I was penning this book. So it dawned on me that I needed to observe my feelings for the sake of being able to relay exactly what it feels like to suck my thumb. I packed. I had already started sucking my tongue to calm me down while I was driving, because it also plays a part in calming the nerves. As soon as I started with the tongue sucking, I could feel what I can describe as a collision between the anxiety and the calmness inside my body. It was like a gradual escalation of two emotions pressing against each other. I could feel that I needed to strengthen the good emotion. To do that, I gave myself a minute to bambata, and the more I bambated, the more serene I got. Before I knew it, within a few minutes, I was untroubled, unbothered, and ready to hit the road again and proceed with my journey. Well, viewers at home, that was the end of chapter 6 that was titled Driver's License and Driving. Next week on Wednesday, we will be reading chapter 7 titled Eating Disorder, Losing Weight, and Getting Robbed. Please continue liking and following the Informer. See you next week.